Hello, welcome to Mary Hall's channel where she finds many anomalies. And this one is no exception. We've done videos about this in the past, but there's going to be articles written about it because this is amazing discovery. Mary Joyce has a fine website where she's going to do an article about this. We'll leave a link below to her website and her YouTube channel. But here in the high deserts of Nevada, we were monitoring earthquakes, and there was an unusual swarm of earthquakes in Nevada, and we were checking it out. It seemed unusual because the swarms were in a pattern where other swarms are more irregular. And the swarm seemed like they were in a pattern, so it was unusual. We were checking it out. And again, the epicenters were all around this area. But while we were looking, we could not help but notice this. See if you see it. It's right in the very center of the screen. We're 51 miles up from the Earth in this view. And you could see mining operations all over, but right dead center here, this is very difficult to find. And again, we weren't looking for pyramids or any anomalies. We're just checking out earthquakes. These were unusual earthquakes as well. It might have had something to do with the mining operations, because there are silver mines here that have been in operation for going on 200 years. But right here, right in the center, we could not help but notice this square, this perfect square, I may add. And keep in mind, it's very difficult to square anything up, even a room in your house, because I've done construction. I'm retired now, but I've been in construction my whole life. And that's one of the most difficult things, is maintaining plumb, level, and squareness. And this has all of that. So why is this in the middle of the desert? Well, some may say it's byproducts from the mining operations that are obviously there. You could see them. You could see these open pit mines here, right there. Some of these might be very old, but they take the byproduct. Well, here you can see it's the Candelaria mining area. Here's a mill sub, that's a substation. But you can see the mining operations, they're well known, but the thing is this doesn't have anything to do with the mining operations. It's a couple miles away from the mine. They're not going to take the byproducts and truck it over here, let alone maintain perfect square, perfect levelness, and everything. In fact, the top of this, what we believe to be a pyramid base, this is exactly 1,000 feet by 1,000 feet. The base on the ground is 1,800 feet. Now, again, even a small room in a house, or the house alone, or any building for that matter, structure, is very difficult to get it perfectly square. In fact, very few are. But the thing is and it's 1,800 feet. Now, I'm going to blow it up like this and superimpose 4 aircraft carriers on top of this. 4 modern day, or let's just say Essex class aircraft carriers. They're 1,000 feet by 1,000 feet long by 250 feet wide. So 4 aircraft carriers, huge aircraft carriers, can fit on top of this thing with room to spare. Entire city blocks can fit on top of this. It's amazing how huge this is. And when you go into 3D, you could see if you did the math, if you get the angle, and if you get you could actually calculate the height, which I calculated, which is in excess, or going on around 300 feet tall. Now I'll impose a picture after we go around on 3D here, of showing just how tall this is. I mean, it's 300 feet. That's a 30-story building. Think about that. That's a high-rise building. That's how tall this thing is, and 1,800 feet across. Now, if you were driving up this road and going by it, you wouldn't think nothing of it. It's just a big, huge ridge. It's clearly artificial, but you wouldn't be able to tell from the ground that this is a base of a pyramid, let alone establish its age. So, again, we know it's old because let me true it up north right now. Right now it's true north. But this direction was prehistoric north. In other words, when this was constructed, it was facing north in its time. This is prehistoric north. which is confirmed. We know that at one time the Earth's axis was vertical; it wasn't tipped. That's what created the massive poles on the, or I'm sorry, the massive ice caps on both poles, because neither pole is ever going to see the sun when the axis is straight up and down. So that's where the massive ice caps, perhaps the encroaching glaciers, stopped this project because they had completed this base entirely. If you zoom in, you can see you can actually see the crisscross pattern in it. It's actually quite amazing. And if you zoom in on the sides, the 300-foot sides, let's get it in 3D again, you can actually zoom in and see the casing stones. There's one side where it's really obvious. I believe it's this side where it's very obvious that there's, you can see the vertical mark, the lines here, you can see the horizontal lines. And in the previous videos, I actually measured all this. I'm not going to have time to do it in this video. I'm going to try and keep this one short because it's going to be a link for an article, that article that Mary Joyce is doing. But you can clearly see each regular size panels. I believe they were like approximately 3 feet by 6 feet. And you can compare it to the casing stones that remain on the pyramids of Giza, and they're the same size. You can see it all throughout. And this topsoil accumulated over the eons of time, and you can see that it's totally different than the topsoil in any area around it, including the mining. You can see, you could clearly see this. I'd love to get some boots on the ground there and get underneath this topsoil, and I'll bet you anything there's smooth limestone casings stones there. So let's stay in two dimensions here. Again, this is an option button. It's not a reference button, but you can see the road going up to it, and I'll show a photograph of this highway right here. There's a highway that comes up to it. Let's keep this true north so I can get my bearings. Here's the highway over here on the upper right. That's Highway 95, State Highway 95. And I got a picture thanks to Google. Someone took a picture towards here, off the road here, going down this access road, which take you straight to the pyramid, and you go right by it. And of course, nobody's going to recognize this, and anybody that knows it's artificial is going to assume it's from the mining operations. In fact, the miners in the 1800s probably rode by this thing in their horse and buggy and didn't even know what it was. Just saw this big ridge, just assumed it was a mountain ridge, flat top mountain, because you're not going to recognize it being a pyramid unless you get an aerial view. And that's what's great about the Google. We can get a good satellite view of this. Again, this is extraordinarily huge and perfectly square. That's impossible to do. If it was done in modern times, it would be economically, prohibit such an operation. It would cost millions and millions of dollars and heavy equipment to accomplish this feat. And we know that our ancestors did. There's pyramids all over the world. Why wouldn't there be one in North America? And here we have it. Perhaps even the oldest pyramid discovered in the entire world. And we know that it's ancient because of its orientation. It's, this thing was built by the builder race, or what I refer to as the ancients to the ancients. So in other words, when the ancient Indian tribes and whatever were around this area, there's petroglyphs all over too, by the way. When they saw this, they knew it was even ancient to them. And again, I'll show a clear outline, also showing exactly what I'm seeing here. Some people see just a square blob, and you don't think much of it. Sure, it's square, but again, you have to appreciate, and I know those that do construction will appreciate this, that it's very difficult to keep anything square, even like let's just say a warehouse building and things like that. Very few of them are perfectly square. It's virtually impossible. I used to even be a concrete laborer, and when we set the forms for foundations and things like that, we took great care in making sure it was as square and level as possible. And that's another thing. This thing is level. It's on level ground. The top is perfectly level. I'll show again this zoom in a view from that road, I-95, the camera points down this road. You can clearly see this artificial structure that does not match anything around it. And you can see that there's no scarring from recent construction. Again, this would take a massive amount of equipment and engineering just to even start it, to get it square. So why would the miners do that? Why would, say, the military? I've had people say military put this there. When? They didn't do it during World War II or World War One. We'd see scarring around here. And certainly they didn't do it recently, because we would see heavy equipment scarring around this. There's none of that. Nor is there any erosion around this. There's no erosion because of this topsoil that's been accumulated. And if you look at the bottom of the slough piles, I call them, from the byproducts of the mining operations, you can see clear erosion and rubble along the bottom. We don't see that here. This is recent. This is artificial, recent from the mining operations. This is not. It's clearly different color. To me, it sticks out like a sore thumb. But I'll do a drawing that clearly shows the outline, what I see, and it's a perfect fit for, I think 52-degree angle. This thing would have been over 600 feet tall, or 900 feet tall, I'm sorry, if it was complete. Again, I'll do I'll do an image where that shows the base. It'll be in yellow, and then it'll show what the apex, how high that would have been, and then it'll show comparisons to the Great Pyramid in Giza, and it'll also show great comparisons with modern day buildings. Again, this thing's 300 feet tall, my friend. That's a 30-story building. So this is not, clearly it's artificial, but it was not made recently. And if it was, to what end? It would cost millions of dollars to create this. And so it certainly isn't byproducts from the mining operations, because again, economics would prohibit that. They wouldn't even make a profit, even if they were mining gold, if they did this, if they made this with byproducts of their mining operations. It's impossible. This was made probably at least 10,000 years ago. And you clearly see that this is remarkable. Now, the camera shot from Google from that road, I-95, you could see that this top is perfectly level. And again, you can fit 4 modern aircraft carriers on here. I don't know if anybody can appreciate the size of an aircraft carrier. They're 1,000 feet long. That's, incredible. And this thing is 1,800 feet across. So this is a remarkable find that Mary did, monitoring everything. She monitors the ISS, she monitors Google Earth, she monitors earthquakes. And it was thanks to them earthquakes monitoring that this was discovered. To me, it sticks out like a sore thumb, even at a distance. There's nothing in the entire area that matches this in color or shape, or certainly not size. Let me keep it trued up north here. Again, you can see it's lined up with prehistoric north. This is the alignment of many monolithic structures, or even megalithic structures that are older than ones that we think are ancient. So there's temples and things all over the earth that are older than things that we know of. In fact, they're all aligned like this, because that's the true north at that time, which indicates the extreme age of this. So this is something that has been overlooked and accidentally found by Mary Hall. So with that, we thank you for watching, and we'll talk at you later.